My husband cheated with my sister, and now my family wants me to forgive them both. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to spill my personal drama to strangers on the internet. But here I am. My name is Jenna, and I'm 32 years old. Up until a few months ago, I thought my life was pretty normal. Married for 5 years, working a steady job, close with my family, I was the kind of person who believed in loyalty above all else, especially when it came to family. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. It all started with a gut feeling. You know, that uneasy sensation you get when something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That's what I felt about my husband, Tom. He wasn't acting the same. He'd come home late from work, glued to his phone, and when I asked him about it, he'd get defensive or change the subject. I told myself I was just being paranoid. After all, we'd been together for years, and he'd never given me a reason not to trust him. Then there was my sister, Emily. She's 4 years younger than me and the golden child of the family. Everyone loves Emily, her charm, her energy, her ability to light up a room. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the one who took care of things while Emily was off being carefree. I didn't resent her for it. I was proud to be her big sister. Looking back, there were little signs that something wasn't right between them. The way Tom laughed a little too hard at Emily's jokes. The way Emily always seemed to find a reason to hang out at our house when Tom was home. But I brushed it off. They were family. Family is supposed to be safe. I found out the truth on a random Tuesday. I remember it so vividly because it was so ordinary. I got home early from work, excited to surprise Tom with dinner. As I walked up the driveway, I noticed Emily's car parked out front. No big deal. She stopped by all the time. But as soon as I opened the door, I felt something was wrong. The house was too quiet, and then I heard it. Laughter. Low, intimate laughter coming from the bedroom. My heart stopped. My mind raced with all the worst possibilities, but I still didn't want to believe it. I walked down the hallway, each step heavier than the last, until I pushed the bedroom door open. And there they were, Tom and Emily, tangled up in my bed, like they didn't have a care in the world. I can't even describe the feeling that hit me. It was like the air was sucked out of my lungs. My stomach twisted into knots, and for a moment I couldn't move. Tom looked up first, his face draining of colour. Emily just stared at me, her expression unreadable. "Jenna?" Tom stammered, scrambling to cover himself. "It's not what it looks like." "Don't," I snapped, my voice cracked, but I didn't care. "Don't even try." I turned and walked out before I could hear whatever pathetic excuse he had. I drove to a friend's house and sobbed in her driveway for what felt like hours before I finally told her what happened. But that was just the beginning. The next day, I called my mum, hoping for some comfort. I thought she'd be furious, that she'd stand by me and help me figure out what to do next. But when I told her, she sighed deeply and said, "Jenna, you have to understand. Emily's been going through a tough time. She didn't mean to hurt you." "Didn't mean to hurt me?" My sister slept with my husband, and I was supposed to just brush it off because she was going through a tough time. When I told her I wanted nothing to do with Emily or Tom, she sounded almost annoyed. "You can't just cut them out of your life. They're family. You have to find a way to forgive them." Forgive them? I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but it didn't stop there. My dad said the same thing. So did my aunt, my cousins, even a couple of family friends who somehow found out about the whole thing. Everyone seemed more concerned about keeping the peace than about the fact that I'd been utterly betrayed. "Don't make this bigger than it is," my mum said during one particularly heated conversation. "Tom loves you, Jenna. He made a mistake, but he wants to work things out. And Emily, she's your sister. She'll always be your sister. You can't throw that away." I felt like I was going insane. The more I tried to talk to my family about how hurt I was, the more they turned it around on me. Suddenly, I was the problem. I was being too dramatic, too unforgiving. My own parents were more worried about Emily's feelings than mine. It wasn't just my family either. A couple of mutual friends found out and took Tom's side. "He's really sorry," they said. "You two had such a good thing. Don't let this ruin it." Ruin it? Tom and Emily had already ruined everything. I felt completely alone. Everywhere I turned, people were telling me to forgive, to move on, to pretend like nothing had happened. No one seemed to understand how broken I felt, how betrayed and humiliated. I tried going to therapy, hoping to find some clarity, but even that felt like a dead end. The therapist was kind, but she kept steering the conversation toward forgiveness, toward finding a way to heal my relationships with Tom and Emily. I left every session feeling more frustrated than before. Meanwhile, Tom kept trying to win me back. He sent flowers, wrote me long emails, even showed up at my office one day to apologize. He said all the right things. How sorry he was, how much he loved me, how it was a stupid mistake that didn't mean anything. But it wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't something I could chalk up to a moment of weakness. This was a deliberate choice, over and over again, to betray me in the worst possible way. And Emily? She had the audacity to text me, saying she wanted to talk. She didn't even apologize, just kept saying she hoped we could move past this. Like it was some petty argument over borrowed clothes instead of the absolute destruction of my trust. The loneliness is the worst part. I've always been close to my family, but now I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. Every time I try to talk about how I'm feeling, they shut me down or make excuses for Tom and Emily. It's like my pain doesn't matter to them. Some nights, I just sit in my car and cry because I don't know where else to go. The house feels tainted, full of memories that now feel like lies. My family feels like strangers. And I feel like I'm disappearing, like the person I used to be is slipping away. I wish I had some kind of resolution, but I don't. I'm still stuck in this limbo, trying to figure out how to move forward when no one seems to be on my side. Sometimes I wonder if I'm crazy for holding on to this anger, if I should just let it go like everyone keeps telling me. But then I remember the look on Tom's face when I walked into that bedroom, the way Emily didn't even flinch, and I know I can't. I don't know where this story ends, but for now, all I have is this overwhelming sense of betrayal and loneliness. And honestly, I'm not sure if that's something I'll ever be able to forgive. Update. My husband cheated with my sister, and now my family wants me to forgive them both. It's been about 6 months since I first walked in on Tom and Emily, and I wish I could say things have gotten better. But, if anything, they've only gotten more complicated. For a while, I tried to cut everyone out. I ignored Tom's attempts to contact me, blocked Emily on every platform, and stopped attending family gatherings. I thought some distance would give me the clarity I needed to figure out what to do next. Instead, the distance just seemed to make people angrier with me. My mum started leaving voicemails almost daily, pleading with me to stop being so stubborn and come back to the family. My dad wasn't as vocal, but he'd send me these guilt-trippy texts about how family is forever and how life is too short to hold grudges. Then there was Emily. I thought she'd leave me alone after I blocked her, but no. She sent letters, actual handwritten letters, apologising in the most half-hearted way possible. In one of them, she actually wrote, "I know this is hard for you, but it's hard for me too. I miss my sister." Hard for her. She missed me? The nerve of it was almost laughable. Almost. And Tom, well, he didn't give up either. He started showing up at places he knew I'd be. My gym, the grocery store, even the coffee shop I go to on Sunday mornings. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but when it kept happening, I realised it wasn't. He was stalking me, though he probably thought of it as making an effort. One morning, he cornered me outside the coffee shop, holding a box of my favourite pastries like that was going to fix everything. "Jenna, please," he said, his voice thick with desperation. "I know I messed up, but I love you. I can't lose you." I stared at him, barely able to process the audacity. "You didn't just lose me, Tom. You destroyed us. There's no coming back from this." His face crumpled, but I didn't care. I walked away, leaving him standing there on the sidewalk with his stupid box of pastries. You'd think that would have been the end of it, but no. My family decided to escalate things. About a month ago, my mum organised a family intervention. She invited me over for dinner, saying she wanted to talk about how we could move forward. I was hesitant, but part of me still wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, my family would finally take my side. When I showed up, the first thing I noticed was that Emily and Tom were there. My stomach dropped, but before I could turn around and leave, my dad stepped in front of the door. "Just hear us out," he said, his tone firm but pleading. I should have walked out anyway. Instead, I stayed. Big mistake. The intervention was basically an ambush. My mum kicked it off by saying, "We're all here because we love you, Jenna. We want this family to heal." Emily chimed in, her voice trembling like she was the victim. "I hate what I did, Jenna. I hate myself for hurting you, but I can't lose you as my sister." Tom, of course, had to get his 2 cents in. "Jenna, I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. I just need the chance." I looked around the room, at the people who were supposed to love me, support me. Instead, they were all staring at me, like I was the one who had done something wrong. Like it was my responsibility to fix this mess. "Are you kidding me?" I finally said, my voice shaking with anger. "You all expect me to just forgive and forget. Emily slept with my husband. Tom betrayed me in the worst way possible, and you're sitting here telling me to let it go." "Jenna, it's not about letting it go," my mum said, her tone frustratingly calm. "It's about healing. For all of us." "For all of us?" I repeated, my voice rising. "What about me? Do you even care how this has affected me?" There was a long, uncomfortable silence. Finally, my dad said, "We're just trying to move forward as a family. Holding onto anger isn't good for anyone." That was the moment I realised they weren't going to change. They didn't care about my pain, my betrayal. They just wanted everything to go back to the way it was, even if it meant sweeping everything under the rug. I stood up, grabbed my bag and said, "If moving forward means pretending this didn't happen, then I don't want any part of it." My mum started to protest, but I didn't let her finish. I walked out and didn't look back. Since then, I've gone no contact with most of my family. It's been one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, but also one of the most necessary. The loneliness hasn't gone away. If anything, it's worse now, but at least I'm not surrounded by people who make me feel like my pain doesn't matter. As for Tom and Emily, from what I've heard, they're still seeing each other. The thought of it makes me sick, but at the same time, they deserve each other. Let them deal with the mess they've created. I've started seeing a new therapist, one who doesn't push me to forgive before I'm ready. I've also joined a support group for people who've experienced similar betrayals, and it's been surprisingly helpful. Hearing other people's stories reminds me that I'm not alone, even when it feels like I am. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm focusing on myself. For the first time in a long time, I'm putting myself first. And honestly, it feels pretty damn good.